Hi guys, so let's now take a look at this evaluate question. It's really important you understand how to actually go about answering this type of question command phrase, because you've got two of these evaluate questions in your exam, one for section A, one for section B. It represents 24 out of the 100 marks available, so 24% of your final grade comes down to this one type of command phrase. So let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. This is a question all about cash flow. Let's have a look, see what we've got here. So we've got quite a detailed amount of information here on the cash flow situation for this given business. Now we've got the question down at the bottom here, so evaluate suitable actions that Max could take to improve his cash flow position. We can see the sales levels and the actual income earned each month for what a 6-month period here, and we can see the outgoings as well via the expenditure. Now of course, income minus expenditure gives us our net cash flow. What's interesting to note is that the business has actually started with a negative opening balance. That's something that we can certainly grab hold of, okay, because it says that he's worried about a negative net cash flow and closing balance in some months. So this is a bit of an issue, that he starts with a negative, and that is going to pose a little bit of a problem, and we can see it feeds through to a negative later on here. This gives you really useful points of application that you can use in regard to actually assessing this question and going about answering this. So you can refer to the negative closing balance of minus 6,672 in December, and how he opened in July with a negative balance. Okay, so the question's really focusing on improving this situation. So how can we improve it? We can see that he's already got a loan, and he's got loan payments which he's already making here. Therefore, I'm less likely to actually identify as a loan as a potential option here, and it's worth actually stating that as well to the examiner. But broadly speaking, the way I would actually look about this is thinking about actually reducing these purchases, or certainly delaying the payment of these purchases, because these are considerable amounts of money here. Okay, it does go down come October through to December, but these are really considerable amounts that are being paid here. And if he can delay that expenditure for a period of say 30 days, then that will significantly help to improve his cash flow situation. So that's the first method that I'm likely to suggest here, that he should look at trade credit as an option. In addition to that, he could also see if he's able to actually reduce any of his other outgoings. Why is he advertising £610 there? Is that truly necessary? That's not a big factor here, but there's something huge here. So we don't know what that is, and that gives us something else that we can draw a circle around here as something that is really a real concern for the business here. Okay, so what other alternatives are there? Well, of course, he could also look to increase sales income. So can he actually increase income, particularly in these months of October and November? But we can see October and November, the lower sales translate through to lower purchases of stock here, so a lower cost of sales in effect. Anyway, let's move it through. So as we've seen, trade credit is a good way to go, getting out that credit card if necessary, but making sure that he pays off the balance in full, reducing his outgoings, okay, and getting more customers. These are the different alternative ways I'm going to look. But then finally, I'm going to make a judgment. I'm going to make sure I round off this question with a detailed judgment on what I think is best in this situation and why. Okay, so overall, the structure that we've got here is really going to be paragraph 1, I'm going to focus on the trade credit. Paragraph 2, reduce cash outflows. Paragraph 3, reduce cash inflows. And then finally, that judgment. Okay, so nice and straightforward. So here's our first paragraph. Now, I've highlighted trade credit here, as you can see. You can pause this and just run through this, but you can see that I've then given direct application, okay, and I've really highlighted where that application is, because it's something that students do not do enough of in their answers. You've got to make sure you use all that information that you've got there in answering this question. Next paragraph here. He can reduce his expenditure, as we've discussed, and again, I'm using the actual figures here and explaining why this is so relevant, okay? So you can see my direct application. I've also referred to the fact that he won't necessarily be able to reduce his rent in the short term, and that's only a 6-month period that we've got, and he might be in a formal contract and so on, okay? So you've got to be realistic in what you're actually suggesting here as well. And then our third option, which is to try and increase his income, okay? So while this may require him to purchase more stock, we've seen that his contribution per unit is strong at £160. So that's interesting, because what I've actually referred to there is an answer or a question and answer from a previous question. So I've got application that has come via a previous question in the actual exam paper here. So it's absolutely fine to do that. So do make sure that you include at least one piece of application in each paragraph that you write on these evaluate questions. And then finally, the overall judgment. You can see that this is really quite detailed. Now, it follows what we call the AIM structure. So it answers the question. So you can see it answers the question here, and it then justifies the actual answer. It then almost gives a sort of it depends upon element, okay? So only if such methods prove unsuccessful. So it depends upon whether this is actually successful. But then if it's not successful, he may want to take out a loan, okay? And then finally, we can see that I've got a final point made, which usually will be about a most important point that would be referred to. So you can once again see that I've included direct application in this response. It's really quite tricky to do, but with the numerical answers that you're given, and the information in section A, you can make a really good job of this, all right? So make sure that you include a piece of application in each paragraph. So overall, there is the structure for these evaluate questions that you need to actually kind of think about. Now, I've just broken it down nice and simply there, so that you've got a paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3. Should be an absolute minimum of 3 connected sentences taking place in each of these, together with your application, and then that you've got a judgment which answers the question, justifies your answer, says what your answer may depend upon, and then says what you think is most important for that given scenario, whether it's an individual in the section A section, or whether it's the business in the section B part of the exam. Okay, so final thing to say is I wrote a book to support my students in terms of actually developing their exam technique. Now, I've put that onto Amazon so that you can actually get yourself a copy, and you can get yourself a copy for free if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber. Now, that's on Kindle, and it's also available for paperback, and really that is taking you through an entire exam paper and the sort of structures that you want to use on each of the individual questions, and it really does go into a lot of detail on each of those different questions. It gives you distinction level responses for every question for the sample papers. And it goes through some of the key mistakes that students make, as well as looking at detailed structures for each section. I'll put a link to this in the description below, so do check that out if you're really really clear about wanting to take it to the next level and really ensuring that you get a distinction grade in this exam. As I said, it's also available in paperback there. Okay, all right, great stuff guys. I hope that's been helpful. See you next time.